game 2 against KC.
Yeah.
Right up until that late
Yeah, it's the classic,
point,
right?
And that's the question that we're going to be keeping our eyes on today
Yeah.
for the side of BDS, right? For SK, it's can they continue the form they showed against Fnatic?
Yeah.
And for BDS, can they clean up those mid to late game scenarios? Because that early game did look good. Now, as we enter the bans, Nidalee remaining banned against 113.
Yeah.
They're depriving us of a cherished rhyme every time they do it. But the Maokai also taken away, as is the Ivern, so not wanting to give that over to Boukada.
Curious to see if SK will also choose to ban out the Zyra third and go for like 3 jungle bans, all targeting towards 113. That's been a pick that he favored yesterday in their series. He tried to go a little bit crazy in that Zyra game, but you know, I think carries are the way to go for 113, and it wouldn't be surprising, I think, if SK just decide to fully target that out.
Definitely taking their time.
It's also still Naafiri and Gwen, which could be considered for sure.
And Naafiri hit on this patch, right? But we're just still not sure the context in which she should be picked. SK did play against the only Naafiri we've seen so far. It did not look good, but I think that was more of a Fnatic problem than a Naafiri problem.
Yeah. I think also just draft around the Naafiri problem.
Sure, certainly.
I think now you have an interesting situation here where Gwen is open, but Jax is also open, and I think both top laners are kind of down to play the Jax into the Gwen, which is why it looks like BDS are favoring the Skarner first pick. Now, we haven't seen 113 find the best success on these tanky junglers. He likes to do more skirmish and fight in the carry style, but let's see what SK responds with.
We'll have to track that, because you're right. The Zyra in game 1 yesterday was okay, but ultimately mid-late game, just the comp, a lot of things fell apart.
I wouldn't blame him for that game.
The Xin game was incredible, and that was them coming in with a stronger early game jungler and a game plan from level 1. Now, Skarner isn't that kind of champion. You're not planning around Skarner's early clear. He is that rock in the jungle, so someone else is going to need to step up if they want to find success in the early game, and it might be a bit harder now that SK have already secured a Varus for themselves.
It's going to be the Varus lock-in here, and I'm thinking maybe just the Sejuani, just match tank junglers into tank junglers. Although it looks like they maybe want to go for the Jayce here and just kind of make this full poke comp. And maybe an AP jungler on 3 so they can keep this Jayce flex going.
I like the amount of pokes that they have as an option. Varus still the potential to go either build path.
True.
They add one more tank to the mix. Probably makes more sense to go for the on-hit. I do think that for BDS, having this amount of reliable engage will be a boon if they can find the same early game success. It just makes playing that mid to late game so much easier.
Yeah, and Parus just seems to like favor the Rell more than anything else. Oh, and Nuke here, picking the Azir. Wow. Means they're kind of constructing this like really easy front to back.
I feel like
this
feels like the sort of draft where they, if I'm a coach and I walk in and you think BDS is higher on, higher on the tier list, you go, let's just draft scaling.
Make it simple.
Let's keep it simple. We believe we're the better team. I think the downside is, right, as stable as these picks are in the late game, you're giving up a lot of power, and SK clearly have some aggressive aspirations. So the Lillia gonna run circles around 113 on this Skarner. Such a powerful jungle champion. We've only seen one game so far from it here in the LEC. No,
and it was Yike who went crazy on it. And I do really like it here. I think into already 2 tanks, Lillia does great. She can kind of kite around, and into the Azir, she can also dodge a lot of the soldiers by just being so fast. And it just synergizes greatly with this Jayce and the Varus. They can both go lethality, and now you can still retain this Jayce flex. And I would like to see on the SK comp to go for a tank top so that you actually have some frontline, because it's really hard to play like a squishy jungler and squishy top and squishy mid, and you really need some frontline that can tank this like Skarner and Rell engage.
Definitely. And you still have a little bit more poke added in with the Swirl Seed as well. So time to see. Is it going to be the tank jungle angle for now? Banning out the Mbessa. This
they could
also just be the top lane Jayce.
I think they could send the Jayce top, but then I feel like you don't have a great mid pick. Like you could go for Yone, but then I feel like the overall comp is a little bit too squishy, so I'd like to just see them put the Jayce mid, go Cassandra on 4, get counter pick on support, make this Varus bully. Actually, they already have the Rell locked in, so they could just go top lane last. Maybe an Alistar on 4 then would make a lot of sense for them. Also a very good like solo frontline support.
Definitely, but the Alistar of course banned away. BDS clearly recognizing.
True.
In a world where you have to pick one form of kind of tanky frontline in the support position, Alistar does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And now the Nautilus as well. Loopy with an excellent game 1 against Fnatic.
I think something like a Leona here would make a lot of sense. You could also go for the Braum, which people have been favoring into the Rell, but it's just not the best with Lillia, who doesn't really want to auto-tech and stack that Braum passive up. So it looks like it's going to be the Leona here for Loopy, and I like that quite a bit. also a very good like solo frontline option. Just is one of the tankiest supports alongside that Alistar.
Also a nice bit of non-committal CC with the ultimate. You get so tanky as well on the champ, and also just Varus Leona. Classic, kind of iconic 2v2 power lane combo. So much damage between those two champions early on.
I like
this Jhin. Offer utility.
I like this Jhin answer because you're now able to... You already have the DPS from the side of the Azir. I would like to see a more aggressive top lane pick for Irrelevant here rather than something like the K'Sante, because they already have two beefy boys in the side of Rell and Skarner, so I really like something like a Gnar blind pick.
Yeah. Not the flashiest blind pick, but I think it kind of gives you the best of both worlds. It's excellent follow-up. It's like your life is so much easier when you're the Mega Gnar and you already have other people looking to bring in that CC, but you also have that nice side lane threat, and it limits a lot of the viable answers on the top side of the Rift, but with the Yone being hovered, and there's still room for that flex.
It's also really smart to go Gnar here, because you're essentially saying, now you don't want to play K'Sante, you want to put Jayce into this Gnar, which means that now SK end up putting the Jayce top, but their composition, while having a ton of damage, and I like it quite a bit, is very, very squishy. If Parus can get any sort of Rell engage on anyone other than the Leona, they just get one-shot.
At the same time, this is the kind of draft that Lillia players dream of.
Yeah.
The lack of reliable point-and-click CC.
That's true.
The potential to dance around people. But again, the downside is if you fall behind, this is a champion that can feel super underwhelming outside of those big sleep moments. And there is pressure on whenever you're going to pick something like the Lillia into a tank jungle. We know you're supposed to get a jungle clear lead, but what else are you going to do in the context of the game? Because Skarner's impact on a game, I don't know, it feels like a sure thing.
Yeah, I think top side is the side of the map that I'm looking for this game. I think bot lane, not much action should happen, just Jhin and Varus kind of farming, and then supports look to roam mid here and there. And for me, the big question is, can Parus roam to mid and shut down Reeker? And also, how much can Boukada get done? And I also want to see this top lane matchup, because I remember it used to be that Jayce could bully this matchup quite hard into the Gnar early game. But, as we've seen, it's tough to punish Gnar these days. A lot of teams have not managed to do it, and he just ends up scaling into this split pushing and team fighting monster.
Yeah, the Gnars have been on a tear, most certainly. Now it's time though, let's get into game. Day 2 here, week 2, BDS versus SK. All eyes on the top side of the Rift. We hop onto the Rift for game 1. See if BDS have any more creative level 1s cooked up after their game 2 versus KC yesterday, but for now, the answer is no.
I think if someone has a level 1 here, it could be the side of SK, with a little bit stronger bot lane on the side of Varus and the Leona, and then Lillia that could easily go for some like late invade onto Raptors, or even doing just like one camp into a Raptor invade. I think they could look for something level 1.
SK, 3 members spotted by Parus there, and it's a good call out. Something that's easy to forget when we see Lillia so infrequently is that she's kind of the queen of stealing Raptors level 1. The second she's in the game, it's a sort of invade that has to be respected. Didn't see if that ward on the top side near SK's Raptors did spot out Boukada or not. Sjokz is now retreating at least a little bit.
Boukada spotted it at least because he has a 5 gold lead, and so he pinged it. Little bonus.
Those are the little differences. You like how people were so bad about team play that Riot Games literally had to give them in-game currency to...
I think they should do that more. If I type a good message, give me 3 gold. If I type good job, 2 gold.
I think your teammate's yapping up based on what I've seen.
Oh, so Boukada's going for a wolf invade here.
Wants to contest.
Jhin is around.
Gnar level 1 very weak. Jayce level 1 notably stronger. And 1-1-3 being zoned out is big here. So Boukada, level advantage. 1-1-3, I think just needs to walk bottom side. Boukada's just waiting until he spots him on the ward to start up this blue. Excellent read from SK. Came in with a level 1 plan, knowing they had the stronger jungler in the context of this matchup, and they're leveraging it to full effect.
Yeah, it's a disaster for 1-1-3 here, as this clear now is so delayed, and it's already quite a bit slower than this Lillia's. But now I think we can easily end up in a situation where Boukada gets all 3 quadrants of the jungle, and 1-1-3 is only going to be stuck with his little bot side.
1-1-3, path redemption might come from trying to force some sort of play bottom side. You can see that Ice and Parus for now at least have the push.
Yeah, maybe with this bot push, they could look to leverage an invade into SK's bot side. But Azir is slightly losing push in mid, which like mid lane prio is usually the most important when it comes to these types of invades. And the problem as well is that Skarner's not really winning that 1v1. So he really needs his teammate to kind of move at the same time as he goes for that invade, which always makes it a lot more awkward.
Is a bit of an awkward early game now for BDS. Skarner not too far behind quite yet, but Boukada will speed through these camps. And again, any kind of early game lead that an AP jungler gets just compounds so quickly as their clear speed increases a lot with those early first purchases.
Looks like 113 is looking here. Really wants to try to steal away this blue buff.
This is such a game. This just feels like a smite fight, though. Maybe if he lands everything, it'll be all right, but...
Yeah, it might be just be a flip.
Seed.
I mean, we'll see.
This is a lot to bet on a flip. Oh! Manages to grab it from the side of Boukada.
Parus is here.
Knock back to the wall is there. Parus immediately going to fall. Ice from downtown. Boukada stronger in the matchup, yes, but not in a 3v1.
As BDS bot lane here moving first, immediately capitalizing. I love that it's 1-1-3 that actually starts this play. Because usually always the Rell starting with the Q flash, and I think Boukada could have easily reacted to it. But it's actually 1-1-3 starting with the Skarner flash E, which I wasn't expecting, and it ends up being Boukada going down, but we got crazy trades on top.
Relevant. Boom!
It's a solo kill.
Blank. Jhin flashing straight into his face with a long-range weapon to finish the job.
And he's bullying the Gnar. He's doing it.
That's what's supposed to happen, right? You're supposed to be able to bully him. Parus on the way out now. Bloodbath on every side of the map. Both teams, seeing that they have the isolated 2v2, decide it's time to start fighting. Keduii getting
113's here
now, but 113 is on the way in. Ishtal's edge. Finding the knockback flash out from Keduii. Loopy will be locked up, but no ulti quite yet. Loopy set to fall. Nice lockdown, and 113 grabbing another kill.
And after a disaster early game for BDS, 113 is everywhere. It is going to be Boukada picking up the respawning wolf camp, but still, after this level 1, 113 is sitting smiling right now.
Yeah. He shouldn't have been able to get back into the game. But I mean, this is the kind of team play that you want to see from BDS, especially support jungle, something that we were critical of in Winter Split especially. They had push, they came to back him up, spending their free resources, spending their advantage to bring him back in the game. And what looked like Boukada, I mean, just flipping it for a blue buff, ultimately cost him his life.
And it's a huge CS lead onto this Jhin, sitting at a little 400 gold lead here onto this Varus after he had to drop quite a bit of minions here, basing after that gank. So overall, BDS sitting at a 500 gold lead at just 5 minutes, even despite Irrelevant getting solo killed.
No. And I think this is one of the scarier things that could happen in an early game, is that you fall behind against a composition with this Jhin and the Skarner together.
Yeah.
The mid-game pick potential is going to be very frustrating. Nuke holding on to mid-prio as best he can. This first back from FLICKR is big. Parus on the way in. Not going to use the crash down. Just going to wander out.
He's going to decide to get better of it and just run back to bot lane. So yeah, as you touched on, like, when you have this full poke comp that SK has, the problem is when you fall behind, your poke is not really doing enough damage to make a dent into these beefy boys, and they have so much more freedom of when they choose to engage, which means that they always can get a better engage. Yeah. While if SK's poke is doing an insane amount of damage, the BDS frontline, they get really pressured. They have to find something fast. But if they're so tanky they can just absorb it, they can take however much time they need.
FLICKR just trying to crash this wave in. I think it's a good call out. The good news is Jayce still ahead. Jhin still with the lead that he built in isolation, in the isolated 1v1. So good for the confidence and good for the state of the
flash
game.
here.
But Keduii way too far forward. Thought he was safe. I mean, he's going to take his time walking out of this one, but he should just fall. Shattering strike, fall up CC there. Overextending. They don't have the damage to immediately punish. Q going wide. And Ice, he's just too damn clean. Again, he was dead 15 seconds ago, but they just had to make sure the buttons were going to get hit. The skill shots were going to reload.
But it was a great sidestep by Ice there onto the Varus Q. It is going to be the gross picked up by Boukada. But now Keduii falling there, and most likely Drake going over to the side of BDS. I mean, Loopy has a crazy cheese here.
Loopy can get things kicked off. FLICKR does have ult. Q flash forward. Immediate follow up. They're only managing to lock up one. 113 now ready to turn. FLICKR doing decent damage, but will have to snap back in a second. Now taken out of the fight. Ice 4-shot going to hit the Drake, and down it goes. FLICKR going back in with the Q3.
And it's messy from both teams. It's very messy, but it's like Keduii is not there, so it's a numbers advantage for BDS, which means despite a good look from Loopy, when FLICKR doesn't get the follow-up, it's just they don't have the damage. And that means Drake going over to the side of BDS, nearly a 1k gold lead. But the only lane that SK really have in their favor is this top lane. And Jhin needs to do a lot of heavy lifting here.
One thing I do Really want to keep my eye on, though, as this game progresses. As BDS hold on to a small gold lead now. Checking mid to see if anything else is going to happen. It will just be the play going down. Is what 1-1-3 in this BDS lineup can do. Because we talk a lot about the difference between BDS last year and this year, and I think it's very evident in the jungle lead. It's important to highlight here, 1-1-3 gets way more leads.
Yeah.
But they win a lot less games, right? And the context there in the story, and the stats aren't perfect, right? But shout out to Molecule for getting these stats for us. But I think that it's the idea is well reflected in that this is a BDS lineup that can get ahead early.
Yeah.
But it's not always a BDS lineup that can close with confidence.
Very Fnatic-esque, one might say.
I'm concerned that it's starting to become LEC-esque. I'm concerned this affliction might be more widespread.
Well, SK did take down Fnatic after they threw. So maybe they can do the same against BDS today.
And well, I don't think SK want to bet on throws. Look, if you start to fall behind in these comps, you know, never hurts. Have a little support from the enemy team. Again, though, that's more forward look. Those moments aren't happening at 8 minutes or 9 minutes. And for now, it is still 2-0, 4-1-1-3, racing towards that Heartsteel.
Yeah, and bot lane is actually not that bad for Keduii. I think he's still able to continue farming. It does feel a little bit bad to see the plated steel caps onto this Jhin, especially this early on. Diminishes a lot of that early lethality value.
But he's faster, so he dodges the skill shots, and that's a Jayce, Yone, and to be fair, lethality Varus. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. It's bad for Keduii, I meant.
Oh, it's bad for Keduii.
Yeah, he feels bad.
Yeah,
that,
okay, I agree.
Ice has it. Because it's like, it's quite early in the game to have both Dirk and plated steel
I thought
caps.
you were like, Ice, I want to see full Yomus. Do not stop for anyone. Do not buy boots. Just go straight to first item.
Oh, Loopy has the flash. I mean,
Nice
this is just the
punish.
pressure of this support jungle right now from BDS. They're just so much stronger that any fight they look for, SK has to back off. And I just don't see how they really win around this bot side right now. I'd really like to see Boukada kind of cross-map and continue playing for the grubs, try to get this Jayce further ahead. Because I do think when the Gnar is mini, if Gen X is able to get some good trades going on beforehand, crush the wave, they can easily dive, and actually continue snowballing that lead.
It's tough though, right? Irrelevant also just going for the early boots too. Can just stay out of reach.
Yeah.
Cover back.
Oh, they're actually swapping here. They really want to contest these grubs. So now as well, it's going to be harder. Gen X is going to match the Gnar reset a little bit behind in tempo here.
And important to highlight the difference in kind of team compositions and the value of the grubs. SK already getting 3 grubs with the strength of their side lane champions is big. Them getting 6 would be a disaster for BDS. Gnar, Azir, fine on side lanes, but nothing compared to a Jayce or a Yone.
Yeah. I think Gnar especially could be happy, but when he's already behind in the lane, he's most likely not going to really come back and be able to hit much towers. But it looks like SK are happy dropping the grubs here and want to look to dive Irrelevant, but he's about to hit Mega. I don't think they really have the damage for this.
It's a bit awkward because you kind of want to wait him out. There's a Hex Flash takes him away. Boukada going in. Not aware there's a Skarner waiting. Excellently layered CC. Not even time to put anyone to sleep.
That's a disaster for SK, and it's so disjointed as Irrelevant gets a good little chunk here onto FLICKR, but you see Loopy wants to go for the cross map onto bot and drop the grubs, but Boukada is not there, and they don't have the damage as 2, so Loopy's movement is just kind of wasted. While 1-1-3 is playing this early game fantastically, like we talked about earlier. He's able to get these huge early game gold leads through his creative fapping, his creative thinking, and I want to see, like, come on, finish it.
Agreed. We're pretty far away from there. Closing games, the struggle for this BDS lineup. But again, I think the 1-1-3, the hero of the game thus far, falls behind a bit early because of the strength of Lillia, leverages his bot lane's push to contest, to get those early kills, and has just kept up that pace. And this is big for anyone following BDS. Hold that thought as Parus is locked up. Boukada here to follow. Parus taken down. Nice little trap there from SK to punish. But meanwhile, on the top side, the counter punch coming through is now it's Gen X who's in trouble. Forced to flashback, but will get cut down. Another TP on the way up. FLICKR with ulti available, and Nuke gonna start TPing out. 1-1-3. They just try to find an angle to go into the wall, but that is a fast Yone. Nice flash to the side. Nice lockup to bring him under tower. Knock back into the wall. Knock up. The kill will still come through. Maybe a 1/10 of a second off another tower shot coming out and finishing the job. Well played by 1-1-3, but ultimately, FLICKR gets the job done.
Not quite enough there by 1-1-3, but a really good dive from BDS. You see there that the BDS support jungle are the ones this time that are a little bit disjointed with Parus onto this bot side while 1-1-3 is making this top side play. And it's a great dive, but because REEKR has the TP, he's able to force both Nuke TP out and kill 113. But a very well executed dive. 113 takes that last tower shot, which brings him down so low. REEKR checks the bush intelligently with W, thinking that Nuke could be TPing out. And 113 just barely, maybe if he eat him into the tower or something, he could CC'd him for a little bit longer, but doesn't quite get up.
Yeah, REEKR holding onto his flash as well, which is big. And again, the start of that play, it's a 1-for-1 in that small context, but remember that Loopy, or excuse me, Parus did also go down, so overall, SK trading up, getting a bit of gold back, and super close game. But BDS remain ahead on objectives, and it's likely they're going to close out the feats here.
Yone here is able to get quite a decent gold lead onto this Azir. Getting to zone Gnar here. It's a good cross map from SK.
Also, the Blade Spike definitely going to feel good. Nice bit of a trap here. Loopy going over the wall, trying to lock up Parus. Soul unbound from REEKR. Good bit of damage down, but not nearly enough to get any kills. Boukada on the way in. Now, a sleep might change the story, but the rage is starting to stack. That's one sleepy Gnar. Desperately wants to go Mega, but this fight is getting awkward fast as Parus has generated so much space and Irrelevant now goes Mega. I don't think this dive is there. Ice on the way in too. He's got the range. The curtains have been called. But SK are getting the hell out of dodge. Well defended by the side of BDS.
It's a great, I like the idea from SK. They want to go for the cross map. BDS are doing the drag, but Loopy not quite being able to get onto this Gnar makes everything so awkward, and the space that Parus and Irrelevant were buying there was really key for being able to buy time for Ice and the rest of the team to come. But then SK, with their flashes, are able to get out.
Overall, good survival, weathered the storm, as you can see. Nuke just continues to push it on the bottom side. Feats have gone over to the side of BDS, so a bit of extra stats in their back pocket. And it is a bit of a struggle. You can see Jhin still holding on to his gold lead over Irrelevant, but not able to stop Nuke from this immense side lane pressure. They're also going to concede bot lane tier 1.
Yeah, now Nuke will catch back up in gold onto this Yone, which feels pretty damn good for him. But I think REEKR can still be quite a menace in this side lane, winning against both the Gnar and the Azir. And we saw it in, I think it was Caps against Jojo, right? Where Caps was on this Yone and was just completely wreaking havoc against Jojo's Azir.
I mean, I don't
think REEKR can do the same.
I think we can go all the way back to Worlds last year, right? Where Yone was really at his peak. And it really feels like once you have Blade of the Rune King, if you're not too far behind, especially once you hit level 13 and you have max rank E, this is a champion that can always just win on a side lane or win a fight that just has so much individual playmaking potential. And we're in a situation where REEKR might just have to make one of those big plays. Might not get to just play it smooth, easy, or comfortably.
Yeah, but on the side of BDS, you do have Skarner, which is like one of the best junglers into the Yone. So I do think whenever 113 is hovering Nuke's side into this Yone, he can actually force him out quite easily.
We talked about the composition being, I would say, pretty stable and standard from BDS. Do you think it's like clear-cut as we go later in the game that their comp is stronger, or is it just more reliable? Is it just easier to see the path to victory?
I do think SK has a harder to execute comp for sure, but they can generate more pressure on side lane, and if they can play range very well, they can always poke them down and generate space that way. I would say that I favor BDS comp going like later and later into the game. I also do think it gets to a point where Gnar should start winning on side and be quite fine. And when that happens, then SK lose a big win condition.
Definitely will. Nuke grabs another tower. Traded 1-for-1 in terms of towers overall, but the Herald also goes down for BDS. So again, the second BDS got that lead off that bot side play where Boukada went down, they have been so active in getting these objectives taken out.
And it's a mountain soul, this game. And you see 5 defensive boots on the side of BDS. So if they're able to get 2 mountain dragons, they're going to be pretty unkillable against these lethality champions on the side of SK.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jhin has Collector, but likely I imagine just goes crit at this point. But if they had both gotten lethality, this is the nightmare for both AD carries. You see the mountain rolled, you're like, okay, so I guess I'm not doing damage this game, never again.
That's true. But at least, I think BDS will be the ones able to get this 3rd mountain dragon, as they'll be able to push out now topside, generate a good top D push, and then reset, take full Drake control. BDS here, or Irrelevant here, able to clear out this pink ward, just hovering into mid, letting Ice catch this wave. And they just want to leverage this top push, moving Nuke into mid and then into Drake, and that way you don't need to worry about a potential cross map from SK where they could go for a tier 2 or tier 1 on this top side if Nuke can just keep up this push.
Yeah, it's a tough game. Nuke has just been a side lane monster. Still a little bit behind FLICKR, but we know that Azir scaling will be big as irrelevant. Ambitious little wall up there, just hoping to catch him. Scuttlecrab going down is a nice small advantage to the side of SK. They have mid prio. We're still 30 seconds out from that Drake, and there's still a bit of vision in the pit. So instead, the call is maybe look to punish that side lane.
SK has been able to maintain control, and you see Jhin is opening straight to mid here, willing to drop this top wave that Nuke pushed in. Now it's going to be a mid lane contest here.
Ready for the full 5v5. Irrelevant will be later to the play.
Herald dropped by 113.
Keep your eyes on those swirl seeds. If Boukada hits multiple people, likely the time for SK to kick off a fight. Herald dropped, but it's awkward. There's no immediate follow-up, so it's just a chunk of damage. But BDS do leverage it to get priority position on the objective.
Parus getting poked out a little bit.
SK walking to this choke is definitely tough, but Irrelevant's backing off, so he's not going to threaten too much here. Now we've just conceded. We want full 50-50. Now that the Mega is gone, BDS are in a bit of a tougher position. Jhin coming in behind. Parus will spot him, but who is spotting who? Parus finds the initial engage. Irrelevant now on the chase in. Loopy locked up. Keduii trying to fire back. Boukada, eyes set on the objective. 2.5k health getting lower and lower. 113 too far away. That's the Drake already picking over, but Nuke scooping 2 up. Finding Keduii looking to chase down Jhin as well. Locked out comes in from ice. Parus gonna find the CC. 113 knocks him back. Symphony of CC there from BDS. They find those kills, but SK at least get the Drake.
It's Drake going over to SK, but BDS are able to pick up 2 crucial kills, and it's a very, very split fight. It ends up being a fight both on the Drake and over the wall, but it's like kind of strange because Jhin is flanking, but Parus is not fully able to go on him. And overall, I would have liked to see BDS play more as a 5-man, as I think Parus doesn't need to flank like this. But they're able to get the engage onto Loopy, but then Ice is now left to fend on his own against Yone. Luckily dodges the Yone Q3, tries to steal the Drake, isn't able to, but it's a great shuffle by Nuke onto Keduii and Jhin. A great W from Ice into the ultimate, able to secure that kill as well.
113 did knock him out of one of those bullets, or perhaps Nuke would have had another kill, but it's too far away.
There's a lot of flowers here.
Otacon has spawned. It is the Ruinous Otacon, so more effectiveness from neutrals. Again, with Mountain on the table, it's big for either side, but definitely something SK do not want to give up. They'd almost prefer the false life, I think, in this game state.
Yeah, I feel like, in general, I feel like Ruinous Otacon is better these days. Just, you get nearly 1 level lead on everybody.
Yeah.
And we've seen it, the Voracious Otacon, when the teams get the GA, it's like a 50-50 if they do something good or something really bad.
I think when it first came out, teams were good at using it, and I think a lot of that was because it was probably too strong.
It was
but
too
then
strong,
when it got knocked back, it was worth a little bit more money, and the withdraw was longer.
Yeah. And the duration, I think, got nerfed as well, yeah.
I still don't think... I think there has to be a higher use case, a more clear, more consistent use case to make it better, but right now, I completely agree with what you're saying.
Yeah. Oh, 113 doing a little drift.
Loopy just walking forward. This tower is about to fall. Good Varus ult to start things off. Parus missing a bit on the Shattering Strike. Irrelevant off to the side. FLICKR laying down a lot of damage, but not going to finish much here as Parus re-engages. Nuke setting up the tower. Nice positioning from BDS, denying any potential fallout from SK. And again, disconnected from the side of SK.
Yeah, it's Loopy really desperately trying to defend this mid lane tower, but it's a 200 HP tower. All it takes is a few auto attacks from the side of BDS, and they take that down, and they're able to pick up a kill on Boukada as well.
And I think Nuke, being the Azir, having access to the Sun Disc passive also just makes it so much harder, because whatever angle you were hoping to find is removed the second that he throws up that tower.
It's an Otacon start here, but SK want a match. They want to fight.
About in 9 seconds. Lillia fast, but not fast enough to get here, so SK will need to fight if they want to stop this one, or prey on some sort of miracle steal. Some sort of fumble from 113, 3k, getting lower, shock blast in, ulti goes through, and they manage to steal it! Ruinous Otacon, but the flowers are still going to get taken down. Ice trying to clear as many as he can, but he only has 4 bullets. That was incredibly awkward. They do manage to find the steal. I guess I caster cursed it, but 113 still trying to force the fight. Jhin with a knockback, but just brings his team deeper into the fight. A lonely Swirl Seed, the only sign of Boukada in this exchange. Keduii, good damage. Irrelevant, not going to get hit by the Q. SK still pushing forward. They got it. They got the Otacon out of that.
I don't know how. FLICKR got a 3-4-man Yone ultimate. while also stealing the Atakan at the same time. I need a replay. How does he steal? What's his? I'm speechless. His ulti didn't even look like it hit the Atakan. And they had smite. Let me see. So the Atakan is 3k. RIKR goes in on a hero play here, flash queuing. Does he get it with the W? Does his ulti hit? The ulti hits?
Okay,
what? That was like an anime Yone moment. What the hell? That's crazy. And then his 1-1-3 trying to continue going for the fight. But it's quite disjointed. They don't quite have the damage. And 1-1-3 ends up actually not dying here. I thought he would go down for sure. And it's Loopy the one that ends up going down.
And remember, this is a 4v5.
Yeah.
Lillia is sprinting, but just as a sign of support, a kind of solidarity with the team taking the objective.
Moral support sprint. And now we have a Mountain Dragon spawning in 45 seconds. Take it away, Drakos.
A slightly more valuable Mountain Dragon.
True.
SK. They didn't get a lot of flowers. I didn't see how many they got, so...
I think BDS got the majority of them, yeah.
Yeah, so still not too bad for BDS.
Oh. Scary recall. But that's a recall 30 seconds before Drake spawns. So that means all of this control is going for the side of BDS. I'd be surprised if SK tried to retake this. Like, Leona is only the real champion that can face check. But Jayce decided to opt for a recall rather than continuing to push onto that top side. So SK won a face check here.
No one is responding to top wave.
Space Keduii.
Relevant there. Just keeping that Mega Gnar rage bar on the edge.
I think they might look to pick Jhin off in rotation with the Skarner. Oh, Jhin gonna TP actually.
This is a bold move, but it's a huge committal. Okay, so they want to play through the bottom side of the map. Meanwhile, BDS happy to play through mid. Nuke keeping that pressure up. No one shepherding that wave in from SK. Nuke can just keep pushing if he wants to threaten or deny some resources. Both teams 5v5, posturing, fishing for the fight. Irrelevant Mega Gnar. Jhin trying to proc it early, looking to knock him back. Blast cone there. RIKR can now follow. Full committal onto Irrelevant. They want to take this Gnar to the fight, but it does mean that they've conceded the objective. 1-1-3 immediately coming in, trying to find the follow-up. A kill traded. Loopy going for more on the engage. Keduii with the ultimate. Lockdown on the Skarner. The chain CC there, but he still manages to get down the Impale. Sleep coming through. Can they find the follow-up? Nuke going for the pushback. The team ready to go. Eyes on ice. The Jhin ready to take over, but he just doesn't have the position. SK, more kills coming out in the play.
And it's so messy, but it's BDS picking up the Drake. And I don't think SK can really get anything off of this. It could look to start the Nash, but they don't really have anybody to tank it up. And it's a big mistake from Irrelevant to get picked off, but in doing so, SK need to forfeit the Drake, so it's overall a win for BDS.
Yeah, 2 for 2 it looks like, the final kill tally. And again, we see the start here.
Like, I like Irrelevant has a perfect fight here. He's about to hit Mega. He can be so useful in this fight, but he misses this ulti on Jhin. He's too late in taking this plant, so he gets cancelled, and then he jumps when he's already dead. It's just a disaster for him, right? But then 1-1-3 flashes out, and he's just barely able to ult Jhin here. Jhin should ideally space a little bit further back. He doesn't get hit by the Skarner ult, and maybe they can just take Skarner down without him dying. And then it's a great flash ulti from Nuke to take down Loopy, and it ends up being, as you said, a 2 for 2.
A little bit awkward. I think Nuke giving up his flash there will make the next fight tough, and you can see Ice, despite being very far ahead of Keduii, has just struggled to match the value that a Varus ult had in the context of that fight.
Yeah. However, Nuke does have the stopwatch.
Good call out.
So that does help him for sure against this Yone, but this Yone is 4-0 with Infinity Edge completed. I think Relevant's down 2 levels here. He cannot contest against this guy.
Definitely cannot.
That was 1 Q. That's crazy damage.
Yeah, things are looking good. And again, Yone was changed this patch. The CC thing is the thing that everyone cares about. If you CC him, even as he snapbacks, the remaining duration of the CC will still apply. But the extra 10% on crit, it was normally reduced to kind of try to balance out the double effectiveness on crit chance. No longer there. Same case for Yasuo. So RIKR hitting harder than he ever has before. And Irrelevant doesn't have any CC in this form, so the nerf doesn't matter, but the buff sure as hell does.
Yeah, Irrelevant forced to burn the flash there, and I think this is just going to keep being the same fate if Irrelevant is matched up against this Yone. And I don't know if the outcome changes much if it's Nuke either. I feel like, I mean, Irrelevant is the one with plated steel caps and the Warden's Mail and the Sterax, while Nuke has a Merc Treads and the Stopwatch. I mean, the Seeker's Armguard.
Yeah.
Oh, Loopy.
Pale over the wall. Loopy locked up. CC well layered as Keduii tries to fire back, but Loopy still standing tall. Curtain call coming out, but all of SK ready to follow up. Some damage coming through onto Rieker, but Rieker can just now chase, getting incredibly aggressive, unstoppable as he recalls. Loopy will finally drop. Rieker getting taken out as well. The Ignite gonna finish the job, and now Nuke on the chase. Hungry for a little bit more. Baron on the table. BDS, they can start it, but it's a tough call. Boukada does have flash. He could just look to steal. Keduii just continuing to poke. Relevant Gnar on the way.
SK needs to drop it. They weren't able to get any of the poke, and 3 versus 5 is just not good enough. And it's Loopy getting caught out, but he's actually fine. But it's Rieker that really wants to make something out of this TP, and he ends up going too deep and falling. And SK are able to pick up the mid lane tower, but it's Nash for the side of BDS.
Massive to have that Nash. Red Bull, Baron power play. And again, I think in the group 5v5, the Azir, the Jhin who is so far ahead, are just going to do more damage. Rieker, much more powerful in the isolated 1v1, but
especially when it's BDS starting the fight like that. Because you need this SK comp. They need 2 things. Either they need a crazy good amount of poke, or they need BDS to be all up in a choke where Rieker and Boukada can just wreak havoc. And if it's in open space like that with BDS starting the fight first, it's always going to favor BDS. But now, we have a Nash for the side of BDS, but I don't think they'll really use this Nash to siege any towers, because they have Soul coming up in 40 seconds. So I think they'll just tunnel vision on playing Soul, and just use this Nash to get full control over this Drake.
See what the call is. Your read on the situation seems right, though. Top wave, basically neutral. Bot wave, basically neutral as Irrelevant arrives. So no real pressure for either team to go top lane. Instead, we can play the map for both teams between mid and bot, and that means Drake. BDS getting a bit poked out. Nice start for SK, but again, if we can toggle the vision, you can see how little SK actually see around this pit. The only thing they really have, vision right outside of that objective. Thank you so much, observers.
They have some good sneaky wards, actually, so they're able to see, I think, if... Yeah, they do have the crab as well, so they can see if BDS starts out at this objective, but 113 is very isolated here.
Will that flanking ward make the difference? For now, the answer is no, but it gives SK so much more confidence to step up and poke. Nuke, though, continuing split pushing. BDS can just back away towards Nuke if they want a 5v5. Instead, play for the inhib tower. SK caught between a rock and a hard place. Again, they want the Mountain Drake, but still they're risking a 50-50 at this state while Nuke is guaranteed to break a tower. Rieker trying to find fight, but he does not hit Ice. Crucially, Parus finding a bit of CC. Ice untouched. Objective down. 113. Better on the smite. That's the soul over the fight. The base now exposed as Nuke's involved. And this is disaster.
It's a disaster for SK, and this was practically a 4v5. And BDS doesn't look like they can go for more, but that's the Mountain Soul for the side of BDS. And they can continue pushing. They still got the Nash, and their 5 members still up.
42 seconds left. Nuke getting value out of the Nash on the push while his team took the objective. That is the worst possible scenario for SK. They had to make a choice. Either one, they would have lost something. And in this case, they lost both.
And that's 2 inhibitors gone. Mountain Soul for the side of BDS. You kind of have to feel as SK. It's a tough game now.
It's a tough game. And again, it started well. I like the way they use Lillia at that level 1 with Boukada overstaying a bit, not respecting the lane prio, putting them behind. BDS just executing better in fights despite how far behind Irrelevant was earlier. Ultimately, he's caught up now, has a decent gold lead for himself. 113 significantly far ahead. And at this stage with these compositions, BDS, I don't want to curse them, but it would be really hard. It's really hard to throw this one.
Actually, I just realized it's BDS, and we're saying the game is over.
Well, you really got to, you know, you got to be Tony Stark in the desert trying to build Iron Man to throw this game. You know, that is the level of ingenuity you need to have.
That would be impressive. But I think in a lot of these fights, a completely different topic, you can kind of see the Yone nerf. Like, you see when Yone misses the ulti now, he like panics and he just instantly needs to E back, because if he gets CC'd, he can't like ignore it anymore. So he needs to play way more safe and way more respectful of the CC on the side of BDS.
Larson built the QSS, the Mercurial, yesterday. Just
yeah, I like that. I like that adaptation. But I think this game, QSS is not bad, to be honest. It's kind of good QSS.
Yeah.
But buying a Mar feels kind of bad, maybe.
It's a bit tricky.
But now they can just siege up for this tier 2.
Rieker. Forced to ult out, still gets clipped a little bit there. Ulti coming in from 113, but again, you can see that he just doesn't really take damage. The Mountain Soul doing so much work.
Irrelevant also to the side here. I mean, now the problem is SK really needs to go
the
back
base
to
is
base.
just getting hit by supers right now.
Yeah. And SK do have decent ranged wave clear with the Jayce, Lillia, and the Varus. But BDS could pressure a dive potentially. But they might also just choose to play it very safe, waiting for the Nash. I mean, that's like the ultra safe option. But I would like to see them try to play for this tower without the Nash, because I think it is possible.
And I think that, back on the subject of how do you build the Iron Man suit in the desert, aka how do you throw this game, if you let it go to Elder, I think that's a big mistake.
Yeah.
There's no reason. Relevant standing on the side with Gnar, trying to zone. Wall up goes down, knock back onto Boukada. He should just fall. Stun coming through there as well, but he buys a bit of space with the stopwatch. Nuke and Ice now ready to follow. Nice knockout coming through from Parus. Instantly, the three-man shuffle. The Emperor has arrived. SK not going to get the chance to fight for anything. Not the Elder, not the Baron. Boukada gets one back in return. Reeker does a little bit of damage here, but it's just not enough. Minions crashing in, but BDS want to play for a few more kills. The Relevant gets another auto down. Loopy will survive. The base, however, will not. And there it is for Ice. Kill for the Jhin. 4 bullets, 5 kills.
And BDS, they will remain in control of this game as they close it out with a beautiful team fight, good patience, and they didn't throw it. Woo!
I like to see it. Progression for BDS, 1-1-3, not just about the carries. Can play to support the team, got support from the team to fill in that role, and a solid start for SK, sent back to the drawing board. We'll see how they adapt heading into game 2. But for now, we're going to go to a quick break. When we return, more League of Legends.